Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Be Well, Be Keto. And today I have a special announcement. I am doing a 5-day Lean Lady Challenge on Facebook. And I want to invite you to do it as long as you're a lady. So here's what you're going to do. Go to my page, High Energy Girl, and make sure to like it while you're there and send me a message that you want to be in the 5-day challenge. And here is your code, okay? Keto Podcast. That's all you're going to say. And that's how I'm going to know to send you the special link, okay? And I'm super excited about this. It's the first time I've ever done it, and I would love to have you all there. And today's guest is the amazing Matt Gallant. So a couple weeks ago, I had Wade from BiOptimizers, and Matt is his partner. Matt Gallant is an entrepreneur, a poker champion, an ex-rock guitarist, a serial entrepreneur who's built 13 companies in the last 20 years. Wow. Strength and conditioning coach with a degree in kinesiology and the CEO and co-founder of BiOptimizers. Now, Matt is keto and has been for a long time, and we talk about so many cool things from sleep to sunlight to keto, and to different ways to tweak your keto plan, okay, including refeeds. Be sure to stay till the very end so you can get the special link for saving 20% on gut healing products. So I can't wait for you to hear the show. He was awesome, and I learned so much. So let's go say hello to Matt. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Be Well, Be Keto, the show that highlights ordinary people achieving extraordinary results and changing their lives for the better with a ketogenic diet. You too can be healthier and live better by adopting this amazing lifestyle. If you are new to the show, new episodes go live every Wednesday for your encouragement and support. And all show notes can be found at BeWellBeKeto.com. Listen each week and add the show to your favorites on your best podcast app. And if you know any cool people that would like to share their story, please contact us at support@highenergygirl.com. And if you want to follow us on social media, which I highly recommend, you can either join our Facebook group called High Energy Girls, if you're a girl, or follow us on Instagram and YouTube at The High Energy Girl. Now let's get to this week's episode with your host, Tracy Gluhite. Yep, that's me. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey Matt, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure. Really excited to be here.
Well, I am happy to have you too. And I have a lot of questions for you, but why don't we kick it off with you letting our listeners know a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm a Canadian. I have my degree in the science of physical activity. I'm a degree in kinesiology. I was a personal trainer for about a decade. Now I've become more of an entrepreneur, but I also started keto 26 years ago. And the story behind that was I went on the date and there was no second date. I asked my friend, why did that happen? And then he told me that she said I had a bubble butt, which was just a nice way to say I had a fat rump. And then, yeah, I just kind of realized, wow, okay, I got some weight to lose. So I started looking at diets at the time, and I found Atkins. So I decided to try that, and it worked really well for me. And then I really got into bodybuilding, and I found this book called The Anabolic Diet by Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale, which he kind of tweaked keto for more of a cyclical keto, which is what I've been doing mostly on and off for the last 26 years. I've been on nonstop for the last 4. I tried a lot of other things. I like experimenting, but I've always found from my genetics that keto is the best diet. So that's the long and short of it. I'm also a co-founder and CEO of BiOptimizers, and we're a company focused on optimizing and fixing digestive issues. So we've been around since 2004. So that's kind of a summation of who I am.
Awesome. So when you started keto, how did that make things better for you?
Well, yeah, so I've used keto both for weight loss. I once lost 64 pounds in 14 weeks, which was a mistake, by the way. And I'd like to get into the big weight loss mistakes. And I've also used cyclical keto to gain probably close to 60 pounds of lean muscle mass. So I've done it like every which kind of way. But I would say, and back then too, we did not know what we know today. Like I was really doing what people are calling, I think relatively accurately, dirty keto. To go to Burger King's and just throw out the buns and eat the meat, and it's still keto, but it's not that clean. I was doing a lot of keto mistakes, which we can talk about. But yeah, overall, I always love the energy that I get off of it. I love the mental clarity. I love the reduction in hunger, which is huge, especially if you want to lose weight. And, and these days I just eat one meal a day, which is very easy for me on keto. Now, if I was eating carbs, it'd be very, very, very challenging. I probably couldn't do it because the food cravings from just the blood sugar fluctuation. So yeah, there's a long list of benefits why I love keto.
That is a lot of weight to lose.
So here's the backstory on that. So I started the anabolic diet and I went from 147 to 235. Okay, now keep in mind this was 3 years and I was training twice a day and I was obsessed with bodybuilding. So that was the plan. Okay, that was the plan, was to gain a lot of muscle mass. And I decided to compete in bodybuilding. I was 19 years old. So I start dieting, and I'm using keto. And I just went crazy. I did every mistake that you could possibly do. I did not have a coach. I did not have any guidance. And just to tell you how crazy it got, at the peak of the madness, I was doing 3 to 4 hours of exercise a day. I was training twice a day, doing weights for about an hour plus cardio. And my calories at one point got down to around 800. I was eating three patties of ground beef a day. That was my diet. I had the lowest and the craziest. And I remember, I think I didn't have any bowel movements for like 2 weeks at one point because I was just incinerating these calories. Anyway, so that's how I lost 64 pounds in 14 weeks. And I lost a lot of muscle mass, which is one of the big things you never want to do. Now, keto is muscle sparing. It is anti-catabolic, which is one of the big benefits. So what that means is that, let's say you took 2 people, right? Let's say you could clone yourself, and let's say your goal is to lose 10 pounds. So you have a clone of yourself, and you do keto, and your clone does a carb-based diet, and you both lose 10 pounds. Typically, on a carb-based diet, the person's going to lose about 50 to 60, maybe 70% of their weight is going to be fat, and then 30 to 50% is going to be muscle mass, which is a really, really bad thing. Versus on keto, is going to be more 90-10 or 95-5 or even 0% muscle loss, especially if you're lifting weights. So anyways, but when you push yourself the way I did, there was no way I wasn't going to lose muscle mass. So that was a huge mistake. And I've learned a lot about dieting successfully long-term since that time, because a lot of my clients that I worked with as a trainer, that was their goal. I had one client lose 191 pounds in 18 months. He went from 400 pounds to about 211, I think. Completely changed his life, went from being literally a dateless virgin and never dated a girl to married within a few months, which was awesome, which was really what got me into being a personal trainer because I loved helping people. So yeah, again, I've seen a lot of mistakes, and one of the biggest mistakes you can make is losing too much weight too fast. That's probably the biggest mistake you can make, and we've seen that with the biggest losers, following up with these people long term. They regain it, but there's really big consequences. It's not just that you're regaining the weight, okay? Assuming that your metabolism was the same, it wouldn't be, it'd be bad, but not as bad as what it actually is. So your body has one goal, right? One mandate, which is survival, right? Or we're genetically programmed to survive. Like that's our number one objective. So if we're losing, let's just use some round numbers to make it easy to follow. Let's say you had 40 pounds of body fat on your body. Like if you just took out all the fat, you have 40 pounds. And let's say you lost 20 pounds in 10 weeks. Okay, pretty achievable if you're focused and exercise your butt off. Now, that means you would only have 20 pounds of body fat left. And your body's doing the math and it says, okay, you just burned 20 pounds in 10 weeks. I only have 20 pounds left. That means if you keep burning the amount of calories that you're burning right now and feeding me what you're feeding, I'm going to die. We're going to die in 8 or 10 weeks because you'd actually die before you hit zero, right? So your body has all these built-in survival mechanisms that have evolved for billions of years. And one of them is going to lower your metabolism. So doing the exact same thing that you've been doing for the last 10 weeks will not produce the same amount of energy loss or calorie loss that it's been producing. So your body starts down-regulating its metabolism. That's survival mechanism number one. Survival mechanism number two is that it starts increasing ghrelin. Now, ghrelin, I call it the unbeatable hormone, and it's a hunger hormone. So usually about an hour before you typically eat, your body releases ghrelin, which makes you hungry, which motivates you to eat. So if you're losing too much weight too fast, your body will start increasing ghrelins to the point where you just snap mentally. And I know I'll give you a couple of stories on that. First is a girl that I know that competed about 2 years ago. And she was already pretty naturally lean, and she really pushed herself to get into kind of that fitness competition shape. And she's been hungry for 2 years. Like, no exaggeration. Like, it doesn't matter how much she eats. Like, she's like constantly hungry. And I know that feeling because I went through that about 8 years ago. I got married. And, I was getting in shape for like the 2 years prior to that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to push it for the last like 6 weeks before my wedding. Starting sprints literally in the jungles of Panama, is where I live. Started sprinting up hills and just pushing my body past the point of feeling safe. And that's, we'll get back to that. And, got in great shape, dropped another 10 pounds. I was already in good shape and got in even better shape. And literally after the wedding, I was hungry for 2 years. And I gained about, I gained about 35 pounds because I was just hungry for 2 years. Like, nobody can sustain that kind of hunger. So I've done these mistakes. I've seen these mistakes. And the goal is simple. We must keep our bodies feeling safe throughout the weight loss process. And when we push it too hard, too fast, that's when these survival mechanisms kick in. So, whatever, and then the question becomes, well, what is safe? And of course, when you start keto, your body has probably excess body fat. So it's very happy to release that and burn that. But there comes a point where weight loss is going to slow down. And this is where you got to get smart. This is where you have to take your time. Because again, what most people do when that starts slowing down, which again, your body, when it's slowing down, that means the body's starting to kick in these survival mechanisms, right? Metabolism starts slowing down, stuff like that. So what we need to do at that point is, okay, you got to take a long-term view. That's the only way at that point. Like, trying to lose a pound a week, let's say again it's stalled, might not be the best option. So, I'm happy, for an example, like for the last 4 years, like my goal is to get, very, I would say not very low body fat, but pretty low body fat. But I've been literally just, okay, every year my goal is to lose about 4 to 10 pounds a year, and I keep getting my DEXA scans, and I'm heading in that direction. And it's been easy, it's like I'm very easy to maintain from a lifestyle perspective, and my body's survival mechanisms are not kicking in. And one of the big strategies around that is refeeds, which we can talk about. Because going back to making the body feel safe, if you're refeeding, which means that you're actually ingesting a surplus of calories, you're making your body feel safe, right? Because if I just stay in a calorie deficit nonstop, your body will definitely lower its metabolism a lot faster. There was a great study that came out last year. They took 2 groups, and they both dieted for 12 weeks. But one group went 12 weeks nonstop, and the other group would go 2 weeks on a calorie deficit and then 2 weeks on maintenance. 2 weeks in a deficit, 2 weeks on maintenance. So they basically dieted for 24 weeks with 2-week breaks in between 2 weeks of deficit. And the group that took the breaks, they had almost no drop in metabolic rate, versus the group that went nonstop, they had a massive metabolic drop. And it takes, and there's another study I saw recently, it takes like 18 months to recover from that. So you diet down for 12 weeks, let's say you push it really hard. And the harder you push it, the more the consequences get extreme. It takes about 18 months for your hormones to start getting back to normal. So going back to that 2-year mark of hunger and metabolism. And sometimes girls never recover, especially women in general. They don't have as much muscle mass, so it's a longer recovery process. So refeeds, which means, again, you're eating a surplus, has been a huge part of my strategy for a long, long time. So what I typically do is 5 days in a calorie deficit, right? A slight deficit, like I'm not doing extreme deficit. And then on Sundays, I eat a massive surplus of calories, and I eat carbs. Why am I eating carbs? Well, first of all, carbs help reset leptin, which is a key part of your metabolism. The other thing is that this carb surplus helps me build muscle mass. It's very anabolic. The insulin, now insulin gotten a bad rap, but only if insulin is chronically elevated will it produce problems. If you acutely elevate insulin for a day, you're not going to have issues. In fact, like I said, it's going to help you build lean muscle mass, which to me, if you want to lose body fat, if you want to get lean over time, your best approach is definitely to build lean muscle mass. Even if you don't want to bodybuild, and of course, every woman's scared to get too big. I get it. But even trying to build a little bit of muscle mass goes a long way for a lot of reasons. It's more metabolically active. Plus, the estimates are to build 1 pound of muscle mass, it takes about 5,000 calories to synthesize that pound. So building 10 pounds of lean muscle mass, which again, especially for women, if you put that 10 pounds on your legs and glutes, you'll look better, And that's like 50,000 calories, which if you do the math on that, that's like 16, 17 pounds of body fat that you'd burn off. So again, that's where go to the squat rack, do the lunges, do the deadlifts. And again, you can focus more on your lower body because women can tend to be able to put a lot of muscle mass on their lower bodies. So anyways, I'll stop there and wherever you want to drill down, because I know I just said a bunch of things. So
You've said so many things. Okay, so the first one that you said that I wanted to talk about is cyclical keto. So can you explain what that looks like in its most effective way?
yeah, so there's two main ways. I'll explain both. First, let me start with the way I do. So again, for 1 day a week, I eat carbs. And so just to get more accurate, like usually Monday to Saturday, I'm eating around 1,500 to 1,800 calories a day, which, I weigh 220 pounds, so I'm definitely in a deficit. But on Sunday, I'll eat around 6,000 calories and mostly carbs. So I'm actually eating a lot of sugar. I'm eating fruits. And what happens is that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm burning up this glycogen, these carbs that are in my muscles get burned off. So by Thursday, even usually Wednesday, I'm back to where I was Sunday morning. The carbs are gone out of my muscle. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, again, I'm pretty much out of that excess glycogen. But as soon as I start eating carbs on Sunday morning, because my muscles and my liver is mostly depleted of glycogen, that's where all these carbs go. The carbs just get stored into your muscle mass. Like someone my body weight can store about 800 grams of carbs. That's a lot of carbs. Like I don't eat that much on a Sunday. That'd be a lot of food. So yeah, that's a lot of carbs. It gets stored in the muscle mass. Actually makes you look better because the muscles get fuller. I'll actually put on like 3/4 of an inch on my arms and an inch on my chest from Sunday morning to Sunday night. It's not because my muscle got bigger. It's because it just got refilled with glycogen. And for every pound of glycogen you store, you will store 3 pounds of water. So my body weight from Sunday morning to Sunday night goes up anywhere from like 6 to 12 pounds. And for most women, if you're obsessed with the scale, you've got to get over the mental freak out of oh my God, I just gained 10 pounds. Because again, that 6 to 10 pounds is gone by Wednesday or Thursday. It's just water and carbs and intestinal bulk. So that's the first approach. The other approach, which is recommended for people that are either training really hard or athletes, they'll eat anywhere from like 40 to 80 grams either right before or during a workout. So let's say against somebody sprinting, especially like power style training or power athletic training, those carbs just get scorched. Like somebody's doing a big leg workout like sprints or squats or things like that, they can eat 80 grams of carbs, which is a fair amount, and just burn that up during their workout, and they'll stay in keto. Because even myself, like on Monday, if I measure my ketones using a blood monitor, I'm still in keto. And that's because I've been on it for so long that I'm just, at that third or fourth stage of keto adaptation. And my body just stays in keto despite the fact that I ate 4,000 calories of carbs on the day before.
Really? That is interesting. I was going to say, like, how were your ketones on Monday, Tuesday, and how was how did you feel mentally? Did you lose that mental clarity? Did you get the brain fog back?
No, so I'm 0.5 usually on Mondays. Monday I'll just measure up on 0.5. So I rarely ever go below 0.5, which is, and I've been on it for so long that I could drink ketone esters and my body will scorch them up. And that's kind of what happens. The longer you stay on keto, your ketones will get lower to a certain degree because you're getting better and better at burning them. But what happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is you become dual fuel. So what that means is I'm burning both ketones and glucose. So it's a great, like the workouts on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are awesome. They're ferocious. Like I'm going to the gym as soon as we hang up pretty much. And it's awesome. No, and I don't get the brain fog. I do recommend people are at least 12 weeks on pure keto before they start carb refeeds, because you really want to be at that second stage of fat adaptation before you start bringing carbs back in. So the first stage, it's around 2 weeks. That's the keto flu stage, which, by the way, is very easily beatable. Here's 3 tips. One is take ketone esters or ketone salts. That's the only time I recommend taking these for the most part. 2, MCT oil. This is a good time for buttered coffee. The MCT will produce ketones. And 3, Capex, which is one of our products at BiOptimizers, will actually help you break down the fatty acids you're eating and drive them to your mitochondria, which produce energy. So there's a big energetic boost you get from Capex. So those 3, either any of them or all of them together, will completely solve keto flu. Like, keto flu is completely unnecessary. That's the first fat adaptation. Second one, around 12 weeks. And then the third one is around 12 months. And that's the one where you can perform in the gym or athletic performance at the same level as you could on carbs. And that's more, again, for power athletes, sprinters, and endurance athletes. It's really more of a power thing, not an endurance thing.
And okay, so what is the difference between the Capex and ketone esters?
Completely different. So ketone esters are pure ketones, right? So Capex is a digestive solution that I developed for people on keto. And it's more than that. So it does 3 things. One, it helps you digest foods, because one of the biggest things that I've seen, again, I've coached a lot of people on keto for the last 26 years, is digestive issues, usually constipation. And that comes down to a lack of lipase, which lipase is the enzyme that breaks down lipids, fats. And sometimes people have an issue producing bile and or hydrochloric acid. So it's usually one of these issues. Mm-hmm. So what we've done is we've created a digestive solution that has all of these. We have 4 different lipases. We have dandelion root extract, which stimulates bile. And you're breaking down the fats you're eating into very small fatty acids that your cells can use up for energy. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing it does, it transports these fatty acids into the mitochondria. And the mitochondria, these energy production factories inside your cells. So we're transporting them, these fatty acids, which is the fat, the fuel, into the cells. And then the third thing it does, it revs up the mitochondria. So not only are we giving them more fatty acids, we're actually revving them up. We're like increasing their horsepower, and they're burning up way more fatty acids than they normally would, which the bottom line is that you feel like you drank a cup of coffee and it lasts for about 8 to 12 hours as far as energy goes. I'll give you 2 stories, which is the same story, but I just did it twice. I got the samples and I took around, I think, 8 capsules, which was a little bit too much, at 3 p.m. And it took me about 3 hours to fall asleep. I repeated the experiment 2 weeks later. I think I took 6 caps around the same time, 3 or 4 p.m. And according to my sleep monitoring ring, it took me 2 hours and 55 minutes to fall asleep. So I know it works, and it doesn't stimulate your adrenal glands. It's not like coffee. It synergizes very well with coffee, but you don't need to drink coffee with it. And it's just very clean energy. It's just like you just have that mental focus at the next level. So you want to take it early in the morning for energy, empty stomach. Like usually about, if you're a smaller woman, I'd say below 150 pounds, 3 caps, maybe 4 caps. If you're 200 pounds plus, probably 5 or maybe even 6 caps if you're 250. And then with your meals, you only take like 1 or 2 capsules. We also have our protease blend, our triphase protease blend, which is what breaks the protein down into amino acids. So that's how you can break steaks and all the eggs and fish and all the meats that we eat on keto down into amino acids. And then we have an ingredient called astrozyme, which transports 30 to 66% more aminos through the intestinal tract into your bloodstream, which is where you want it. So, it's not about what we eat. It's really about what we can break down and then absorb and then assimilate. That's really what digestion is. And when people get usually above 35, that's when they're even in their 30s, low 30s, that's when enzymes and hydrochloric acid and bile production start dropping off quite a bit. And it doesn't get better with time. It just tends to get worse. It is one of the things that we have to deal with aging. But I'm all at BiOptimizers, we're all about optimizing human biology, and I'm all about slowing down and combating aging on all levels, and that's why we use these tools. I don't want to age normally. Okay, yeah. I'll age gracefully, but which is a mental thing. But I want to stay as young as I can for as long as I can. The goal for me is like 150. I think with current technology and where we're going with stem cells and genetic editing, we can all get there. But healthy digestion is, in our opinion, the cornerstone of health, because if you're not breaking down food and again feeding your body the amino acids and the fatty acids, especially on keto, you're just not going to have energy. And the amino acids is what rebuilds your cells, your skin, your hair, your muscles, your organs. That's what you need for that. So that's what Capex does.
So I get up in the morning and I get to the gym, I'm working out by 5:30. What time do I take Capex?
Soon, like literally I would have them next to your bed. You wake up and you take, probably 4 capsules, drink your water, and then head to the gym. So you'll feel it kick in about 45 minutes later. So if you're waking up at 5, by 5:45, in the middle of your workout, you'll feel it. And it'll last probably till about 3, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. as far as that energy lift.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to put it right by my toothbrush. That way, because I get up at 4:45. So if I just put it right there.
Yeah, perfect. And it'll kick in at 5:30 right when you walk in the gym.
Okay, awesome. That's exciting. I'm super excited because I'm starting on your guys' 90-day gut cleanse or whatever with the masszymes and the pre-3OM. And I think that's all that's on that list. But
yeah. So we also, again, our goal is to be the digestive company in fixing and optimizing digestion. So if we look at health as a spectrum, on one side, we have death and sickness. In the middle is what most people would call healthy, which just means the absence of disease. And then on the other end is what we call BiOptimized health, right? Biologically optimized health. And once you experience that state, which keto is, for those of us that have the right genetics, is a part of that for sure. You just feel like high, like almost like naturally another level of energy, another level of vitality, and you feel good all the time. A lot of people, very few people feel good physically and mentally all the time. Because if your body's healthy, your brain is usually healthy. If your brain's healthy, usually your body is healthy as well. So, that's the picture. That's the goal.
Yeah, and it's amazing at the stuff you guys have. And it's like I have to listen to my show with Wade like more than once because he talked so fast and said so much that I told all my guests, you might want to listen to this, or all the listeners, you might want to listen to this twice because he just covered so much. And I think it's super important because, like I always say, you are what you eat and you are what it eats. You are what your food eats, right? And it's the same thing. Like I love what you guys say about it's not just what you eat, it's what you're actually able to utilize in your body, because so much of it, which makes sense why when you were only on 800 calories that you weren't eliminating because your body was just sucking up everything you'd give it.
Yeah. It was incinerating. I was burning probably 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day and only eating 800. So yeah, It was great. It was ridiculous.
So I love how you said to outsmart it, by refeeding. And so what tips would you give to the listeners who are on keto? They're not getting the results that they were wanting to have. They're slow. They're like slowly, really slowly shedding off the weight, and they're getting frustrated. What would you tell them?
Well, first I would say adjust your mindset. If you're slowly getting off the weight, like I said earlier in the call, on the recording, that's where you want to be. Mm-hmm. That's the key to making your body feel safe. If you're losing, half a pound to a pound a month, it's a good pace. To start thinking in months and years instead of weeks and days, mm-hmm. right? Like the whole 12-week mindset, which was created by marketers to appeal to human psychology, because again, most people love short-term, quick, fast solutions, is the problem. Because our biology doesn't work that way. We have to work with our body. We have to again, the goal is to always make our bodies feel safe. Mm-hmm. If we do that, it'll keep working with us. We need to coax our body, not force it. Right. So there's a big difference, right? And as soon as you get into force, that's when all the problems start. So I'd just say adjust your mindset, number one. Two, there's a lot of troubleshooting you can do, and here's typically my kind of checklist. One is sleep. Okay, so sleep is probably one of the biggest game changers for fat loss. Like if you're not getting enough deep sleep, then I would start there, because there's a lot of research that's been done on metabolism, food cravings, all kinds of things. And if you're sleeping, and it's not about sleeping more, it's really about sleep quality. And I've been really obsessed with that for the last 4 years. So I can kind of quickly fly through that. One, you need a pitch black room. I'm talking when the sun's up, you can't see your hand. That's one. Two, your room needs to be very cold. And usually if you have a hot metabolism, so usually guys run a little hotter than women, buy the chili pad. It's about $500, probably the best money you'll ever spend on your sleep. It's a thin mattress that keeps you cool as your body touches the mattress. That's a no-brainer. Three, get a great mattress. In my opinion, the best mattress you can buy is from a Canadian company called Essentia. They have stores in the U.S. It's a memory foam made out of tree sap, so there's no off-gassing. It's a little bit pricey, well worth the money. And again, there's all kinds of interesting research around why memory foam is better than springs. If you can't afford that, then probably a Casper. It does have a little more chemicals, so you have to deal with that for a few weeks. But that's the basics of great sleep. Obviously, turn off all Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. That will disrupt your sleep if possible. The other thing, too, is light. Ideally, wear blue light blocking glasses about 2 hours before bed. Probably the strongest ones is from TrueDark.com. The red ones will completely block out all blue light. You'll literally wear them until you turn off the light. And a lot of us have become hypersensitive to light, especially blue light from our phones and TVs, what's happening is our brain thinks that it's daytime. Mm-hmm. So it's not starting to shut down. It's not starting the natural melatonin process, and it's completely disrupting our sleep. So by wearing these blue light blockers, maybe 2 or 3 hours before bed, our brains start thinking, okay, it's nighttime, and I'll start yawning about 90 minutes after I put them on, which if I don't wear them, I won't yawn. I'll just kind of stay alert. So those are some of the basics of great sleep. The other thing too is light in the morning. So actually one of the best things you can do, and this is a great tip while you're traveling, by the way, is wake up and go in the sun like first thing, and you want the light to hit your eyes, because that tells your body, okay, this is the start of the day. And you'll notice that you're going to be tired, 14 hours after that, you're going to be tired. And if you don't do that, then again, you're not really telling your body that when the day starts. So those are my sleep tips. And again, I could talk for an hour about sleep, but that will make a huge difference in fat loss, like massive. Next cool. Big tip is sun. So and the research on this, so the sun and vitamin D. So vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's like a master hormone that affects all kinds of other hormones from testosterone to leptin. And what I've noticed is if I can get 3 days a week of 15 to 20 minutes of strong sun, my fat loss doubles or triples. Like no exaggeration. Now, when it's winter time, or if it's cloudy or you don't have access to sun, and I know this is going to be controversial, go to the tanning bed. Go to the tanning bed, and you're going to get your vitamin D, and it will produce. And I've done the blood work. Your vitamin D will go up, very similar to as if you're going in the sun. So in my opinion, I'm a huge fan of getting enough light. Again, we're not trying to get super dark and tan, and I think that's where a lot of the health problems or skin problems come. We're just going, 15, 20 minutes, get some strong sun, expose your skin, and we're going for the vitamin D, which again is going to, and it's not the same thing as the oral. I've done the experiments. It's just not comparable. There's a lot of other things happening when the sun hits her skin that isn't happening when I take oral vitamin D.
And what about sunscreen? Doesn't that inhibit absorption of vitamin D or anything?
Correct. So I don't use any sunscreen. And the other thing too is don't shower for as long as you can. Okay, if you got to shower, but the showers will actually counter a lot of the benefits. So no sunscreen and no shower for a little bit, a few hours. So those are the, and believe me, as far as weight loss, it's a game changer. It really, really is. The next thing I would troubleshoot is, ideally in this, obviously we can't go very deep here on the call, but get some blood work, look at your hormones, work with a naturopath or a doctor or an anti-aging medical doctor to look at your body's hormones and start troubleshooting. Because if your hormones are out of whack, it can be very challenging to achieve the results you're looking for. So that's another really critical thing. Other tips is really optimizing your digestion at the next level. So keto or paleo or vegetarianism, they're not necessarily dogmatic, but they're very broad, idealistic pictures. But where you really take your diet to the next level is when you start looking at your genetics and you're looking at your gut biome. So you do a 23andMe test, and you can export your data out of the 23andMe and hire an expert in Nutrigenomics, which is the looking at your genetics and prescribing food and supplements that are built for your body. And just to give you some examples, like for me, I'm a slow caffeine metabolizer. So if I drink 2 cups of coffee, it will fry my adrenals. And genetically, I'm built for keto. Whereas, a vegetarian diet, I would probably have some problems. As a general rule, Caucasians have better genetics for keto than people that have genetics that are closer to the equator. Now, why is that? Well, if you go back, hundreds or even thousands of years, our ancestors would have sometimes very brutal winters, right? I'm Canadian, so very brutal winters. And you could go weeks without, or months without even eating, right? You would kill an animal, eat it. Maybe there's no fruits, there's no vegetables. So our bodies would have to adapt. And, there's very specific genetics that you can find in Inuits, for an example, and that's why they thrive on seal blubber and things like that. So it's called a CPT1A Arctic mutation gene for fatty oxidation. So they do very, very well on keto. That's because they've evolved. Now, again, I live in Panama, and in Panama, there's fruit trees like all year long. Like you could live on the streets and not starve. because there's always, mango trees and banana trees and plantain trees and mangosteen and, on and on and on. So, you could just literally walk around and eat fruits and survive. So people down here, they can eat more carbs, eat more fruits, and they don't have they just process it better. So that's just a generalization, but it is a very key thing to look at as far as your genes. The next big one is your gut biome. There's a great test called Viome.com, Viome. I have no affiliation with them, but I am a fan of their test. And you send them a stool sample, and they analyze it. They analyze all the bacteria that is in your stool, and they can start prescribing the foods that will feed your bacteria. Now, when I started tweaking some of the foods based on that, and also it tells you which foods you should avoid. And for me, for an example, like I never felt good eating chicken. So I naturally kind of moved away from that. And I've always felt amazing eating a lot of beef. And of course, guess what? When my gut biome came back, beef is a superfood for me. And chicken is a food to avoid. I don't have the gut biome, for whatever reason, to break down chicken very, very properly. So, and there's all kinds of very interesting things, like even the types of greens that should eat. Watercress and arugula are superfoods, whereas other vegetables aren't. So those are things that will improve your body. Now, even inflammation will completely stop your fat loss. And this is where dirty keto creates issues. So typically people get on keto, they start dirty keto, which I recommend. It's like, okay, yeah, eat the cheeses, eat the, low carb, quote unquote, foods, low net carb foods. It's a good place to start. But when the weight loss starts slowing down, that's when you need to start cleaning up and moving into really clean keto. And even at, and this might sound extreme, but, I've moved people over to pure carnivore, and that's when they get amazing results. I'll tell you one of the most inflammatory foods that personally and with a lot of people will completely stop their fat loss. And it's A1 dairy protein. So almost all the cows in North America and most of the world is producing what's called A1 protein. Again, not cheap, not goat. So you can eat those dairy products, but if you're eating dairy from cow, it is extremely inflammatory. It will keep your body, even one dose of A1 protein can keep your body inflamed for 3-4 days if you do the blood work. So switching your dairy over to, again, goat cheese or sheep cheese or buffalo cheese or whatever types of other animals you want to eat is the answer. And, there's all kinds of those. So that's a really big one. Go ahead.
That's interesting because I just did. So I love testing. I've done both Viome. I've done 23andMe. I didn't know about the Nutrigenomics thing because then I've got all this data. I'm like, okay, well, what does this mean? So I'll have to take your advice on that one. But so I just did another blood test that said I'm sensitive to eggs, cow, and goat cheese, but not sheep's cheese. And when my husband and I were away last week in the farmer's market in San Luis Obispo, they had a sheep farmer who had like 8 different varieties of sheep cheese. It was amazing.
Nice. Yeah. And by the way, the best food sensitivity test is called Cyrex, Cyrex. And that will give you a very, very deep, because again, any food that's creating even slight inflammation will slow down your fat loss. So it's critical that you eliminate or at the very least minimize. Now, by the way, there are hacks. I have some good news for everyone. There are hacks that, again, I would say, and again, I'm a foodie, so I love great food. And sometimes I will have A1 protein. And when I do, I take Gluten Guardian, which we have a special enzyme in that product that breaks down the milk proteins and breaks down gluten. It's called DPP4. And so again, there are hacks. So when I do splurge, I'll take that. I'll take more enzymes. I'll take the hydrochloric acid, and it really minimizes the damage. So again, when you're traveling, or you have a Christmas, your birthday, a party, these are great tools in the toolbox to help minimize the inflammation, minimize the damage, the gut inflammation that can happen.
I didn't know that Gluten Guardian also protected against dairy.
Yeah, the casein. It helps break down the casein.
Wow, that is brilliant. And so last question for you, Matt, is why keto for like long lasting life? Like I always say, it's not a quick fix. It's a lasting lifestyle change. What do you think about that?
I agree. Again, with the caveat, which is again going back to, do you have the right genetics? Now, if you have the right genetics, which a lot of people do, I think it is the ultimate. And this is where blood work comes in. Make sure you test your blood work. And for me, for an example, if I eat too much, coconut oil, my triglycerides get out of control. And again, it probably goes back to I don't have the genetics. Like when you're born in New Brunswick, Canada, there's no coconuts growing up there, right? So I don't have the gut biome to break down that coconut oil like obviously people down here do. So make sure that if you are going to do it for life, which I'm in it for life, get the blood work, do the gut biome, do the Cyrix tests, and do it intelligently. Use data to optimize it and tweak it so that you're not creating long-term problems. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The key is using data to tweak it and catch anything that might be creating problems. Like for example, with me, coconut oil was one of those things that I had to really cut down because when I did the blood work, I'm like, okay, well, that's not working for me. And then when I dropped it, it cleared that up.
So when you do the 23andMe, does that kind of give you, like when you go to whatever you said, the Nutrigenomics specialist that looks at the data, are you able to decipher your genetics if you're able to handle keto? So for instance, I'm a mutt. So like part of my family is from the UK, part of them is from Sicily, and I'm kind of all over the place. So I guess my question is, how do you know?
Well, yeah, we could have done an entire show on just the genes, like, ACSL1, which is how well you metabolize saturated fats from animals. The adipoc gene, which is the red meat gene. So anyways, I don't want to get too nerdy, but there's actually a whole set of genes that you have to look at. Now, 23andMe will not tell you that. So what you have to do is you download the raw DNA. You can use Promethease. I think it's like $5, or it used to be $5. You upload your DNA there, and it gives you a lot more information. But the problem is you still need a nutrigenomics expert to make sense of it. Because the learning curve on that, like she told me the first time she did a client, and she's a naturopathic doctor, it took her 35 hours to read the data. Like to prepare for the client, it took 35 hours. Now it takes her maybe 2 hours. So anyways, if somebody's really interested, they can email us at support@BiOptimizers.com, reference this call, reference me, and we can do an intro. It doesn't work for us, but I don't want to just get bombed with requests. So if anybody is interested, she's available. And yeah, you can just search nutrigenomics analysis. There are other people that do it. And I really think that that's critical. It's really where it's at, is looking at your DNA, looking at your gut biome, and looking at what's sustainable for you mentally, and then going from there. So again, I'm a lifer for keto for sure. And but again, I think the refeeds are part of it. I think staying nonstop on keto is not that healthy. So like when I go on vacations, which is about 3-4 times a year, I go off keto. So I'm off for like usually 9-10 days. And because I've been on keto for so long, I get back on keto. I'll drop literally all the weight that I gained, which is mostly carbs and water, in about sometimes 3 days. Like I've literally dropped like 14 pounds in 3 days getting back on keto, which is just water and glycogen. Like, it's not fat. And I'm right back in ketosis. Like once you pass that 12-month mark on keto, you're really fat adapted. And at that point you can go and eat carbs for 10 days and then get back on keto, and you're back in ketosis in probably 48 hours.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. So again, that's a big part of like the life part for me. Like, again, I'm a foodie. I like traveling. I like sampling foods when I travel. So if I had to stay keto like 365 days a year, I think I would break mentally. Like I really do. So the carb refeed for me on Sundays and going off of it 3-4 times a year on vacation makes it sustainable for life. If I didn't have those, and I'm being completely honest, I would probably crack.
Yeah, I did some of that this weekend with some chocolate. But I'm back right on today, so that's for darn sure. And no, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like the carb refeeds, what's awesome about it from a psychological perspective is that let's say you're craving chocolates on a Friday night. You know that in 36 hours you can pound the chocolate. So it gives you that mental reprieve, like and a great strategy is to create kind of a cravings list, and on Sundays you just hit it. And that's a great strategy. Like usually people go through that cycle for like 6 months, 12 months. They create these craving lists, and on Sundays they kind of go crazy. And after a while, your cravings start changing, and you start eating cleaner, and you don't crave it. Like you don't crave as much during the week. Like I rarely crave things now during the week because most of your cravings come from your gut biome. So the longer you stay on keto, you just start craving meats and fish, and like that's because you're feeding that gut biome, and you're starving the carb-loving gut biome over time. So that's why your cravings change.
Well, and I think it's good because you're practicing delayed gratification, which is going to actually help you develop more grit over time.
100%. And by the way, we have an awesome discount for your listeners. It's 20%. And you just go to BiOptimizers.com/high energy, and the discount code is high energy 20. And you can, again, I would say for everybody listening, try Capex. And I didn't talk about it too much. It will, I would say, slightly enhance your fat loss. There's several ingredients in there that have been shown to do that. It will give you a lot more energy, and it will fix any digestive issues that you have on keto, like the smoothest bowel movements you've probably ever had on keto. Other products to try if you're going to eat carbs on Sundays or traveling, then Gluten Guardian is really my go-to. And if you want to really like fix your gut biome, then probably P3OM, which is our patented probiotic strain, is what I would go with. So those are 3 of my recommended products for anyone on keto. And Capex, P3OM, and Gluten Guardian.
I have been taking the not the Gluten Guardian, the Masszymes and the P3OM for quite a long time, and I think it is amazing. And so that's why I really wanted you guys on the show, because I heard you guys when you were first on Dave Asprey on Bulletproof Radio, and I just think you have a product that is far superior. I did that whole meat test, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So, and where can people find you? I know that you guys have some really good education on your website. What, how do you want them to contact you guys?
Yeah, if you just go to BiOptimizers.com, you probably get an offer to opt into kind of a double your energy course. And it's an 84-day course that we could have probably sold for $200 that Wade did. And it's just a really, if you want to learn kind of how to get into biologically optimized health and really get on the cutting edge, you'll learn a ton with that 84-day program. It's amazing.
It is absolutely amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Matt. I mean, I just feel like I learned so much from you guys every time I hear you on other podcasts. And even today, you introduced some things that I hadn't heard before. So thank you so much. It was awesome having you.
That's our mission is to help the world experience biologically optimized health, and education and awareness is where it all starts. So love being on shows like yours. So keep the good fight going.
Well, thank you. Okay, that was absolutely awesome. I love when I can learn cool things from my guests. So make sure you go to the show notes page and click on the special link so that you can save 20% on these amazing products. I absolutely love them and feel so much better. And I can't wait to report back to you in 90 days when I am finished with my gut health protocol. So thanks so much for listening, you guys. Please go out and give us a rating and review on iTunes if you haven't already. And if you know any cool guests that would like to come on the show, please contact me at Tracy with 2 E's at highenergygirl.com. All right, thanks so much. Make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.